dokie. I'll be solidary and do it in English, just for you, Esther.
Thank you.
Well, you're getting used to it, right? People being solidary.
Be close, okay.
Yes. All right. So, welcome everyone. I have the pleasure of being the host today, because Jesper's at julefrokost with lydlining. Yeah. So of course that can't be in the weekend. But this is the continuation of the Inspired by Nature series by the all great and almighty Dylan Baston. Big shouts out to him. He's the developer of this pack that's available on the Ableton store. And I'm pretty sure that it's also part of the. I think it's part of the Suite collection. Yes, that's homework to check up on. So yeah, this is part 2, and today we're looking at the Bouncy Notes, which is a for me it falls into the category of compositional tools. So it's a MIDI effect, and it's down here like this. So it sits in front of the instrument, and we have incoming MIDI from your MIDI controller or from your clip or whatever it might be, and then we have some form of creation or transformation of notes. And these notes, they exit the device and then they go into the synthesizer or sampler that you choose. So everything in this device is happening before the actual sound. Okay, so in that way, it's like the counterpart to an audio effect, because all of that comes after the instrument, and the MIDI effect comes before the instrument. And the Inspired by Nature series is inspired by nature, so of course it has a lot of these like physical parameters that we can tweak, which is kind of a cool approach to music making, because we already have a system for talking about music, you know, pitch and velocity and scales and chords and all that. But it's not, maybe not for all of us, it's not as intuitive as nature is. I mean, come on, we grew up with nature. Let's hope it's still here in the future also, so it doesn't become an abstract thing. But it's kind of cool to talk about functions like gravity, mass, speed, lifetime. I mean, it's a different way philosophically to work with composition. And personally, I think it's great that we can step a little bit away from these, the traditional nomenclature, whatever it's called, like the traditional music syntax. Yes, so how does it sound? The way it works is that I can play a note in, and I've let go of the note now. Oh, I'm on the wrong sound card. Apologies. There we go. That was just for me. Great. Okay, so every time I press a note, a ball is made, and I've added the MIDI monitor afterwards, the instrument, just so you can see what notes are being output. So if you look to the left side here, this is the incoming notes from my keyboard or from my MIDI clip, and then what you'll see over here is what is output from the instrument. So if I play one note over here, you see that there's a note output here every time the ball drops to the bottom, but there are no more incoming pitches. And it keeps bouncing. And that's the physical nature of this device, is that we drop a bouncing ball from the top, whoop, and it lands, and when it hits the keyboard, you can kind of see what note it hits. And we can set stuff like gravity. So now it's gonna fall a lot faster. Let me just take off the effects here. And reverb, so we can just kind of evaluate this thing on its own. So you can see the velocity is dropping now. For each bounce, the velocity drops. And if I take gravity down, the velocity dies off a lot slower. I can also change the speed. And I can change the mass. Hej, kom ind.
Hej.
Skal du på Rumkraft? Fedt. Kom ind.
To interrupt.
Ah, no, it's cool. What's your name?
Felipe.
Hi, Felipe.
Yeah, I just saw on the internet that you have open hours.
Yeah, we do.
I was just curious.
Yeah, well, come on in. I'm doing a short presentation on this device called Bouncy Notes. So yeah, take off your jacket and shoes, please, and have a seat and enjoy the show. And we can talk about the place afterwards. Yeah, awesome. Okay, welcome, Felipe. All right, so here, like, speed is the overall speed of the system, and gravity is how much it's pulled towards the bottom. And this all affects the timing, but it also affects the way that the velocity is being changed, right? The last thing is mass. So you can see the size of the ball. So I can have a big mass, big gravity, and slow speed. Whoop! Like, if we have big mass and big gravity, it's gonna get like acceleration really fast. And if we have big mass and slow gravity, we just keep on bouncing. Yeah. So one important parameter here is the lifetime of each. And now it's set to 4B, and it's 4 bars. And I can set this to longer if I want to, and play a chord, for example. It's pretty intense now, right, with the big mass and the big gravity. Like that. And if I set the lifetime down, the balls just disappear. And you can have them disappear before they even hit. So that now it doesn't really do anything. So this instrument, you can easily kind of like paint yourself up into a corner. Like, you can set parameters so that you really don't get an effect if the lifetime is faster than the speed and the gravity. So if something's not happening with the instrument, it's not you or the instrument, it's just the settings, okay? But we can always just double click the parameters and we can get it reset to where we were. Or we could just reload the instrument and like start over. Because it's fun to go extreme with these things that have physical parameters, because they're not constricted to like regular or normal musical parameters. Like, you can really freak this. Say if we do the lifetime for a very long time and we put the speed and gravity up. Like, we can make glitchy stuff where it's sometimes kind of like bugs out. And if you're into glitchy stuff, that's really cool. If you're into the more beautiful, like, hopefully we're going to make something more beautiful hang drum then you can also do that. All right, so let's just get it back to where we were here. The amount of balls you want, you can set with the voices, and this depends on the lifetime, especially. So if I do, now we have 16, and I can take balls out with the amount of voices like this. Yeah. So it's just as having the amount of voices on a synthesizer, right? How many balls can we bounce at the same time? How many voices can we play at the same time with the synth? But again, this just acts as a re-trigger, so it might not be 16 consecutive voices through the synth, because we have this like timing aspect. We can, that was 16 bars. All right. So there are some other parameters that we can fiddle with here, and one of them is that we can put a like randomness to the direction. So right now they're just falling straight down, and we're getting the same note that as I input as I output. But if we add if we add some wind, right? If we blow to each side of this in a random order, let's get a 17% random wind. Off we go. And you can also see now that something happens when the balls, they hit the extremes. That they bounce around. And I can set the rules for when it hits an extremity on left or right. Here you can see the ball is hitting the wall. And if I, right now it's at bounce, and if I put it to rap, it should do like that scene in The Matrix, where Neo runs out one end of the tunnel and he comes back in the other end. Way! Like that. And right now I have a ridiculous amount of keys that my balls can hit. And I can constrict that if I go into this little piano here. And I can say, hey, for some amazing reason, Dylan Baston chose that the tonic in this one should be D, which is amazing. It's not C, it's just something else, which is great. So let's leave it at D. And then I can either constrict it to a scale in here. So we could do a Phrygian dominant, for example. And then I can choose a starting point. And with all parameters on all devices, I always recommend and try to remind myself, always go all the way to the bottom and all the way to the top, so we know what's our range here, okay? It would be such a shame if I only started working in this range and there's 2 octaves more that I didn't play with. That was like the first time I was doing bass music and I heard someone else do their sound check and I got to talk with them for a live show and I heard my music compared to their music. I was like, what are you doing? How does your sound so much more like full and beefy? I was like, yeah, well, I have a sub layer that's in the octave below that I can hear you missing. I'm like, I did not learn that in school. I learned that at Pumpehuset. So from there on out, I always, test the extremes, right? Let's see how far we can go, and then afterwards we choose where we want to be. Yeah. So in this case, I'm working with a sampled instrument, so I don't have the full octave range. And with this, I think maybe it's something like, yeah. And then, we have a starting point on the keyboard, and then we also have a range, which means how high can I go from this point up, okay? So let's just test if we take the direction off. Yeah. Great. Let me just, for test, set it to C chromatic, right? Take all the balls out. So we're here. This is, okay, now it's D2 where it lands. But in this way, if I don't set it to the same octave, right? You can hear the incoming pitch is different from what the repeated pitch is. And in that way, I can use it a bit as like it's repeating the notes, but it's also octave shifting the notes. So listen to the incoming pitch and then the repeated pitch. Now it's the same, right? And if I go up an octave now, I'm still getting that same octave, right? So this will always start at C4, no matter what the incoming pitch is. So in that way, it's more interesting than just a regular note delay, because yeah, you can either push it to another octave or you could change it to another key. But let's try to put it in C minor and then say, let's go 19 semitones up. So that's the perfect fifth, an octave above. And let's start at D3. Yeah. Okay, and then we can do some random direction. And I can set it to be random. So some of the notes are gonna do matrix and some of the notes are just gonna bounce off the wall. And I can set the quantize. So right now the timing of each note is gonna be dependent on the timing between the notes I play when I push it in. Hang on. So now the timing is like chaotic, right? But if I set the quantize here to be give me quarter note, all of it now is going to be on quarter notes, and now it's going to be 1 bar. Right? So it doesn't care about the timing between the notes I put in. So now it's eighth notes. That's a bit more edible, especially when and there's some other parameters that we can play with here. There's a fade out parameter, which is gonna reduce the velocity for each repeated note. So it's like it dies out faster from each repetition. Whoop. And then there's a length. So auto length means that the ball has the same length as the input note. So how long I keep the key pressed down. We can also have randomicity applied to the length. Yes, and down here we can also, we can set a friction, so it means that it's a harder surface here. It's harder to move on the actual surface here, or not. Harder or softer, if it's like hard tarmac or soft tarmac. And yeah, let's see what else do we have here. Yeah, we can set an initial direction of the notes up here on top. So if I take the random direction off and we reset this, we fall straight down. But if I add a direction, it gets crazy fast. Let's put it back to bounce so that they're all just bouncing as they should. So if I give it just a little bit, I could simulate that we're walking up. That wasn't a lot. And it's still, everything is happening on eighth notes. Okay, so this is all great if we just want to play it in. But we can also set the device to just automatically generate balls for us. So if I press auto here and I start the transport in live, if I start up here, the transport, it's automatically gonna... did we lose transport? No, there we go. It's gonna generate a new ball every beat. And let me just take a... Let's do this upright. If we... Oh, where did you go? Bouncing... Note, bouncing notes, there you go. And I think we got some stock MIDI notes in there. But just to show with another instrument here, if we do, let's try the minor pentatonic from here in 2 octaves. And then we can auto and make it drop some balls. And this is way too many because the lifetime is too much. So right now it's generating random pitches that fits into the way that we've quantized it down here. And there's, like, we could set the note length to be something more or something less than the automatic generation here, and maybe set the lifetime to be a little bit less. And generate it. And then add some random direction. And right now it's pretty chaotic. I liked it better with the hang drum, but I mean, it all depends on what instrument we put after, because this is all just manipulation with the MIDI notes. I tried it with another instrument in here, which, oh yeah, it was taking MIDI from this track. Yeah, let's take the pan drum again, and here we go. And then let's auto drop for a bit. Ooh, okay, that's why it was chaotic before. Sorry, I had an extra bouncing notes going. That's why I was acting so weird. Apologies. For some reason it moved it over. Great. And we are maybe too low here. Yes. Okay, so the pan drum now is playing these notes, and I'm using this track over here to take MIDI from the pan drum track as well, which are being input to another version of Bouncing Notes. So yeah, the MIDI from track 1 coming out of the Bouncing Notes there are being input over here on this side. So one is influencing the other. Post effects, yeah. And then they should be set to be in the same scale, of course. So we have D minor pentatonic. Let's do D. I mean, if you wanted it to be in key, if not, then this would be this would be the way to go. And I can change the octave here. So one is doing, the pan drum is doing maybe more mid-range, and then this Muddy World piano is doing a bit of the higher range. And I'm using this add some random to control the velocity a bit. So if I take this add some random, it's the velocity MIDI effect. And we can add that after the bouncing notes. I can drive the velocity here to be a bit, so it's a bit more aggressive. I feel it's a little bit low in the volume and the expression. So again, here we have another MIDI effect where we have an incoming velocity and an outgoing velocity on the other side. And then maybe we need to dial this down a bit. And I give some reverb to pan drum. And pan it a bit. So one use of this is to make these kind of changing all the time, semi-chaotic depending on your settings, more or less chaotic melody sequences. That, like something like this, I would probably record as audio. I would just, you know, press play. We could try to do that. Let's add 2 audio tracks and resample. So let's take audio from the pan drum and audio from the Muddy World piano, and let's not monitor this and record and not loop. So since this is random, it's gonna sound great at sometimes, and it's probably gonna sound weird at other times. And it's random, so I don't know. But the nice thing is, now I just go make myself a cup of tea or coffee, or go to the loo, or just turn up the sound system and get away from the computer and kind of like just listen to what I made. And hopefully some of the passages are gonna be great, and I'm gonna take out those things and try to like develop that idea. I don't know which direction it could be. Like this could go to a dubstep track, drum bass track, a meditation track. It doesn't matter. It's just, it's talking to me in a kind of like non-grid, non-quantized way, which I find quite inspiring to develop from. So yeah, while this is just generating goodies for me, I'm recording everything to audio here. And I know this is moving a little bit away from the actual device. This relates to anything that you're doing on the computer, that just changing the medium, going from MIDI, where you can tweak and change everything, into audio, it's such a nice like committing step where you have something that you need to work with bear with me on this, but in a reduced way compared to MIDI with the tools that we have available for MIDI. Yeah, there's some of the higher notes there that's kind of nice. I could also have recorded the MIDI from each track here coming out of the Bouncy Notes if I wanted to, and then I was like completely FOMO. I would have everything from the composition available, and I might do that. It really depends on how I'm feeling that day. If like, no, fuck it, I'm gonna roll like with the punches, I'm just gonna do the audio and I'm not looking back, all right? And that's how we do today. And at the same time here, I could tweak some of the parameters, and that would go into the audio. I could say, let's just freeze the drops for a second and let the notes fall and not move. To make it less chaotic. And then if I did this, yeah, well, I would note that, okay, this was around like bar 60, I did this change. We could add some more balls. To add complexity. So I'm dropping more balls and I'm taking the lifetime down. We can add more voices, just so that it doesn't get too much. And let's overdo it. And then I'm sliding it up. And these parameters I would put on my MIDI controller. I could change that throughout. I mean, that's part of learning the new thing, is like, okay, how do I want to perform or produce with this? So now it's just 2 notes, right? And I can move those up and down. Yeah, and luckily I press record. Yay! So now I have Like I have this. There was one point where it was just like 2 balls going that was kind of nice. Yeah, I don't know, but there's plenty of material for me to go about with here that I didn't get from Free Sound or from Matthias, who played the drum for me, or something like that. It's just generated, and it's semi-random, semi-chaotic, but it's something that I might go and like play with at home when I'm done here. So the device can do another cool thing that I'll just show you, and then you can play with it yourself. But if you, let me see if I can get it to work. You can, you should be able to draw in. Yes, let me draw a wall. Okay, I'm not allowed to. But you should be able to draw a wall in here. So you can make it so that the balls do not hit certain pitches. And this would be great if we were using it in drum rack mode here, where you have a drum rack afterwards and you can get it to generate sequences for percussion. Like, it's super great for percussion. But if you have a full drum rack, maybe you don't want it to generate kick and snare. You have that as your backbeat, but then it'll just do like congas, or it'll do shakers or something like that. Then that is very, okay, I don't know why I'm not allowed to. But it's kind of cool that you just draw a wall and the ball like can't physically hit that note, and they will bounce off. So you can also like really constrict it to happen at one place. Yeah, I might have pressed something that makes it not be able to do that. That's for homework. Yeah, there's a lot of modulation effects in here that you can play with, and that's totally up to you. But this was like a general introduction to how you can use this compositional tool. Any questions?
So is
Yeah.
this part of the arpeggiator family?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like an arpeggiator, but it just have like way more weird parameters that you can tweak with. And I guess you could set it up to kind of be like an arpeggiator, but it would probably not react in the exact same way as an arpeggiator.
So in what context would you personally prefer to use this for? Because I know you were saying it helps with inspiration at the beginning.
Yes.
And I've kind of been using an arpeggiator as almost like effects, audio effects.
Well, like preparing for today, I really fast went into like just making weird glitch stuff with it, but that was just for having fun. I think I would use it somewhat in a way that I just showed now, to generate melodies that I wouldn't play by hand and that I wouldn't sequence. Like, it would take too long to sequence this. It defeats the purpose to sequence like random melodies like this. But a compositional tool, also like the arpeggiator, is great for those things. So I think I would mostly use it for, yeah, well, I can't say. This could easily generate a lead melody, a lead element. Like if it was in a dubstep or drum and bass track, it doesn't have to be something super, like a hook can be anything, and especially in the electronic music genres, right? It doesn't have to be a keyboard melody or a voice or whatever. Otherwise, I would probably just stick a bunch of reverb on, and I have a pad or some texture, or maybe percussion to fiddle with it for generating weird percussion rhythms. Yeah.
What does the star do?
Yes, good question. The star is also in, I think it's pitch loop. It's just become this, I think it's maybe like a meme or something, I'm not really sure, but the symbol is a snowflake. So if I play it, and are we too, where are we at? We freeze the position. I'm actually not sure why it's playing. there's something. Ah, sorry, I was on the wrong track. Apologies, my bad. Here we go. Yeah, now it's reacting as it should. Yeah. And yeah, it's just these funny parameters that you can play with. Another nice one to know is the filter, and that applies the quantization scheme that we've chosen here for the incoming pitches as well. No, sorry. That was completely the opposite I was supposed to say. I'm sorry about that. It'll do it so that only the note pitches that you have that's on the quantize here is going to add balls for that. So if we go up, so it's only going to hit in that octave for that range. But like for poly, like that was. Yeah, that's it. Cool. Well, thank you for tuning in and listening in and being down here at lab time at Rumkraft every Wednesday from 1 to 5:30. See you next Wednesday, where Jesper is back and he's continuing on the Inspired by Nature series, and it's a surprise what the next tool is. Yeah, there are some pretty cool ones, like one that simulates the roots and the branches of a tree, where you can generate melodic sequences by that. But you generate a tree, and you can blow on the wind in the trees, and they're really something else. And they're a lot of fun to play with. The same with this. I think that's also why it's hard to say I would use it specifically for that, because it's not like a one job tool. It's more like play with the parameters and maybe map some of them out. I mean, it could be super fun to have this in a live set where you've constricted the parameters, kind of like I did at the end of the recording, and you just do maybe 2 things, and then someone would react to that, another musician or a group of dancers or something, that like listen to the complexity of the melody, and then you fiddle with the range and the start and maybe the rhythm, and that's more than enough. And even here we had 2 going on each side, but I think that would be a lot of fun to play with.
Where do you find it in the program?
It's in the packs. Yeah. So so we can go into to packs, or we can search for Bouncy Notes. And it's in this one, Inspired by Nature. And we can... it's only the ones that are not installed. But if we wanted to, we could search for this on ableton.com. Maybe we can do it from in here. Let's see... okay, it's only for the ones you haven't installed. But if there's a pack, then you can go in and say, learn more about this pack in here. And we could search for the pack under packs. And see, Inspired by Nature. Here it is. So it's included in Live 11 Suite. Great, we got that. We got that out of the way. And here you can see each of them in here, and there's quite a bit. This was the one I talked about, tree tone, and last time Jesper showed the vector delay. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. I'm signing off here. Have a lovely day.